I'm from Connecticut. I had a long-distance relationship with a girl from Georgia, and I used to visit her often. It didn't bother me at all. I enjoy road trips. I've driven across the entire United States and back, all by myself. There's something incredibly freeing about embarking on solo journeys along the highways of America. To save some money, I would sleep in my car. It's not too bad, almost like camping in a metal tent. It gives you that rugged feeling. I simply recline the seat, keep the key in the ignition just in case, and doze off. No, I don't bother closing the windows for privacy. Maybe I should have considered it. Traveling down south is a comfortable 2-day trip. Usually, I make a stop somewhere near the Virginia and North Carolina border. So, on my last trip, that's exactly where I chose to spend the night. Rest stops often turn out to be less crowded, and as a result, quieter than truck stops. Normally, I would have opted for Love's, but I was so exhausted that I settled for the first available stop. Surprisingly, it was quite empty that evening, with just a couple of solitary cars idling beneath the warm amber lights. Most likely, they were fellow travelers with a similar idea. I parked my car away from the others, seeking the shade of a tree and keeping my distance from the streetlights. I figured that spot would offer more privacy compared to being under direct light. So I went about my routine as usual, locked the doors, cracked the window for some fresh air, placed the key, reclined my seat, and drifted off to sleep. None of those car camping nights were ever disturbed. Therefore, I didn't suspect anything. Then, I was suddenly jolted awake by a sharp tapping sound. Initially, I thought I heard it in my dream. I opened my eyes, feeling a bit disoriented. Since I was reclined, my gaze was fixed on the ceiling, and there was nothing to see. Another tapping sound followed. It resembled a small object hitting a solid surface. The rhythm was irregular. Was it raining? Were droplets falling on my windshield? I was parked under a tree. Perhaps something had dropped from the branches. Maybe it was a squirrel or a bird accidentally dropping something. What if a squirrel was scampering around my car? Or what if it wasn't an animal at all? It crossed my mind that it could very well be a person fiddling around outside. What did they want? Were the doors locked? Yes, the keys were in the ignition, ready for a quick getaway. Nonetheless, I lay there completely still, pretending to be asleep. Pretending I hadn't heard a thing. Hoping that whoever it was would leave me be. It was better not to find out. I was too scared to know. Ignorance seemed preferable in that moment. The tapping persisted. I had to take action. I couldn't stay there any longer. I had to see what was going on. My heart was pounding, its beat echoing loudly. Whoever was out there could probably hear it. I've made up my mind. I'm going to find out. I'm going to look up and see what that noise is. So I did. What appeared before me shook me to the core. Every muscle in my body froze in shock at the sight. The dim glow of the streetlights provided enough illumination for me to see clearly. There, on the windshield, was a face staring right at me. It was someone, presumably a woman, lying on my car's hood, her face pressed against the glass. Her expression remained eerily fixed, a perpetual smirk etched on her features. I was overcome with a chilling horror. The eyes that met mine seemed to be rolled back, showing only the whites. Her nose was pressed painfully against the glass, and her lips were stretched wide, revealing decaying teeth. Even in the darkness, I could make out her sickly pale skin contrasting with her long, unkempt black hair. Clearly, this person was disturbed. I sat there motionless, paralyzed with fear. Eventually, I gathered myself and reached for the ignition. The car started, producing the most comforting sound I had ever heard in that moment. For an instant, I feared being trapped in a horror movie scenario, where the car refuses to start when the assailant approaches. I reversed as quickly as possible, not giving the intruder a chance to react. In my panic, I remember activating the windshield wipers in a futile attempt to disorient her. I contemplated whether I could drive away with this lunatic clinging to my hood. Fortunately, I didn't have to worry about that, because as soon as I began moving, the woman jumped off, landing on all fours. Seizing the opportunity, I swiftly shifted into drive and accelerated just as I saw her reaching for the driver's side door. Stepping on the gas, I pulled out of the parking lot. Behind me, her piercing, animal-like scream echoed through the air. Glancing in the rearview mirror, I caught a brief glimpse of her seemingly chasing me, running on all fours, her disheveled black hair fluttering wildly. I didn't have time to observe any further details as I swiftly merged onto a curving road and joined the highway. I accelerated, driving through the night without daring to stop, until the first light of morning appeared.